Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdson of World Alternative Media here, and an ancient cataclysm wiped out the majority of humanity, sending them back to the Stone Age around 11,700 years ago. You may say, weren't people basically primitive cave dwellers back then anyways? No, I do not believe that to be the case at all. In fact, I believe a far greater, more advanced civilization lived on Earth and was wiped out around the time of the Younger Dryas Period, causing human civilization to dramatically devolve. To explain this to people who haven't researched the work of Robert Schoch, Graham Hancock, Robert Bauval, Brian Forster, and many others, it would take days. So I won't do that. I plan on making many videos breaking down piece by piece the history of ancient civilization that you will not hear on television or from mainstream academic researchers who've unfortunately buckled to career pressures or possibly just become indoctrinated to the mainstream view of ancient architecture, civilization, and archaeology. In this video, I'm going to talk about a recent story regarding researchers who discovered a fascinating geological discovery under the ice of Greenland. They kept it a secret for several years, only to release the information in the past month. Don't click out of this video. The information I'm going to provide is astonishing. The mind-boggling force of the cosmic event 11,700 years ago changes everything. Proven theories become concrete facts with the most recent discovery. As this article says, Greenland Crater renewed the debate over an ancient climate mystery. The article goes into a fascinating discovery in 2015 by glaciologists studying ice-penetrating radar images of Greenland's ice sheet by the Hiawatha Glacier, part of an annual survey by NASA's Operation Icebridge mission. The researchers came across a gigantic crater that could change everything we thought we knew about the now completely demonstrable extinction event which brought the Younger Dryas Period to an abrupt end. If you were wondering, the Younger Dryas Period was a cold climate event / ice age that happened over about 1,000 years between 12,800 BC and 11,700. A massive comet impact shook the Earth, thus starting the period. The period led to the formation of massive glaciers, most notably in the northern hemisphere, whereas the southern hemisphere witnessed strange, warmer temperatures in the middle of the transition. The Younger Dryas Period was largely affected by a shutdown of thermohaline circulation in the North Atlantic, which is crucial for the transportation of heat from equatorial regions northward. The Gulf Stream is part of that circulation today. Many mainstream researchers ignore the proven comet impact as the reason behind this sudden change, but nonetheless, I believe all evidence points to such a cause. The details are long-winded and not the point of this video today, but the period came to a sudden stop when something massive happened. Throughout over 25% of the Earth, rock samples show a massive sudden change in climate. The noted change in climate is called the Younger Dryas boundary, and the boundary is completely identical to the black matted line in rock representing the extinction of the dinosaurs. Ice samples also show massive changes around the same period. During that time, about 75% of all mammals in North America went extinct, including giant sloths, camels, all sorts of strange animals, as well as the Clovis people. Waters rose as much as 30 feet in a 24-hour period, in some places even more. Imagine the havoc of such an event, considering most major civilizations are based around the sea. For decades, mainstream researchers have insisted such claims of a massive cataclysm have been nonsense. They have claimed that there's no evidence such an event took place. But we've got so many examples, it's incredible. Now with this recent impact crater discovered, we have more evidence than ever. The crater was created by a 1.5 kilometer or 3/4 of a mile large asteroid. The iron rock was 11 to 12 billion tons and created an impact crater of 31 kilometers or 19 miles. The crater goes more than 1,000 feet deep. The asteroid traveled at 12 miles per second or 43,200 miles per hour. It was equivalent to a 700 megaton warhead. There are 1,000 tons in a kiloton and 1 million tons in a megaton. Little Boy, the bomb dropped on Hiroshima, was 15 kilotons. The Hiroshima bomb wiped out almost everything within a 1-mile radius. Experts are saying that conservatively, the asteroid that struck Greenland would have been equivalent to 47 million times the impact of the Little Boy bomb that dropped on Hiroshima. Now, there are about 24,902 miles around the Earth. If the blast in Hiroshima wiped out everything within 1 mile, 47 million times that impact would have fried almost everything on the planet. It makes sense, considering these facts, that there were massive fires larger than the ones that allegedly killed the dinosaurs, which lasted 1,000 years, taking out over 10% of the Earth's surface. Now, let's be fair and compare the impact to Tsar Bomba, the Soviet nuclear bomb test, which yielded 50 megatons of TNT. The test itself is almost unbelievable considering the sheer force of 50 megatons. Its radius was large, but now keep in mind that the explosion was elevated. It did not explode on the ground, so the impact was seriously muzzled. That impact was still much larger than the radius of all of Paris and surrounding towns. Now let's get into why this recent finding is so incredibly important. It puts a face on a theory. It proves that the impact we were all called crazy for theorizing for so many years is not so crazy after all. With waters rising to incredibly high levels, many of the largest civilizations that I do believe did exist before the Cataclysm would have been wiped out. It proves that the biblical flood very likely did indeed happen. It wasn't just the Bible that spoke of the Great Flood. Countless religious texts from throughout the world all spoke of this flood around the same time. This finding also helps bring more fuel to the conversation many have had about places like Tanis, Egypt for years. Tanis is an ancient Egyptian city that appears to have been scorched and destroyed by a massive event. Evidence of plasma blasts are found all over the area. No evidence of plant life for the most part in the area signifies something massive happened. The sand is the consistency of flour, and to top it all off, the site is now within the confines of a military base. How convenient. Researcher Brian Forrester has done some excellent up-close research at Tanis, which I definitely suggest everyone checks out. But Tanis isn't the only place where there's evidence of a massive cataclysm, but for the sake of the video's length, I won't break down every single case. We will go into far more findings another time. But anyways, think of the impact this cataclysm would have had on the world. Imagine the world is technologically savvy and in an instance, the grid goes down, disaster wipes out the majority of humanity. Haze blocks out the sun, water washes out the cities. People go from dependent to hunter-gatherers out of desperation. Many people move underground to shelter themselves from the storm, much like mice and other small animals did during the extinction event that wiped out the dinosaurs. In Turkey, there are over 200 ancient underground cities with ventilation, communication ducts, and in the case of Derinkuyu, it could house up to 20,000 people within its 4 square mile confines, which by the way was carved around volcanic stone with no examples of cave-ins during construction. The ancients even knew where to place load-bearing pillars and walls. They had tight hatches that a single person could move over doors, so no one and nothing could get into their quarters. Archaeologists are still completely baffled by this ancient discovery. The site isn't entirely excavated, and it is unknown how much more extensive it may be. Could these underground cities have been a hideout from the raging destruction above? The reason I bring up these cities is that the dating of them is assumptive at best, much like a lot of the ancient world. Like the inventory stela of Egypt, an ancient carved storyline of the Sphinx's discovery, which I hope to break down in a video soon, stories of the creation of many of the most incredible sites in the ancient world are subjective to the reader. The establishment will say one tablet is fact while the one sitting next to it is myth to benefit their stubborn viewpoint. You have to understand, many of the academic researchers in basically all fields of study will do whatever it takes to ensure their belief system is confirmed rather than do what they should and look for ways to debunk their own beliefs. Skepticism is the cornerstone of scientific discovery, but instead, people desperately search for confirmation bias because it's a lot harder to admit you were wrong than to admit you were right. Anyways, the dating process applies to so much of the ancient world. If humanity was wiped out today, what would remain in 12,000 years? Light bulbs wouldn't. Wood would be fossilized, if anything, beyond recognition. Metals would be decomposed. All that would truly remain is rock structures, and who would even put a date on that? Even carbon dating is incredibly flawed. If you take the soil around Mount St. Helens and don't account for the volcano a few decades ago, it would appear that soil from 40 years ago was closer to 200 or 300 years ago. Most of the examples of structure dating in ancient Egypt, for example, are based loosely on writings conveniently put into context with whatever suits the academic narrative. When a geologist like Robert Schoch comes in and tries to prove the academics right in the early 1990s, he finds that the Sphinx, for example, is clearly far older than the Egyptologists and textbooks have claimed. There's clear evidence of water erosion, which could have only happened over a long period of time. The problem? Water couldn't have flowed there to that extent for many thousands of years before the academic dating of the building of the Sphinx. Robert Schoch is called crazy by the mainstream Egyptologists, while the Egyptian government stifles any further research or excavation, yet he has done actual scientific research at the site, and the inventory stela I mentioned earlier clearly states that it existed long before the pyramids. But what does the establishment have? A narrative they've desperately clung onto for decades, for over 100 years. A narrative of whatever I say goes, and if you contradict me, I will punish and blacklist you. A narrative of, well, some other researchers said this years ago, so I'm gonna stick with what they said instead of looking any further into it. Interestingly, with a massive sudden flooding event, which has basically without a shadow of a doubt been proven, not just by writings, but by ice samples as well, it only adds that much more evidence to the already mile-high pile of evidence regarding the dating of the Sphinx. Think about it. Even if the flooding didn't reach the Sphinx via the Nile River, the amount of precipitation created instantaneously throughout the world by the massive sudden melting of glaciers and rise of global water levels would lead to massive storms flooding out a lot of inland communities. I mean, we are talking extreme weather here, more powerful than anything we've seen in recorded history. And that's the thing, recorded. Most of the historical records from ancient societies have been wiped out over time, as well. Look at the burning of the Library of Alexandria, which was said to have carried the greatest source of historical records throughout all of mankind. Also, the Sahara Desert at one time was a jungle. If you look at Africa from space, you will see that there's evidence that the entire northern part of the continent was dramatically changed by some kind of event. It appears to have been water. The sands of the Sahara have been said to have come from the sea. Notice the direction of sand as if water flowed to the east through the Sahara. Interestingly, right over the spot, Atlantis is theorized to have existed above ground at the Richat structure, the eye of the Sahara. YouTuber Bright Insight has been doing an incredible job of bringing that theory to light as well. It is quite possible that the Atlantis Plato recounted was wiped out by this ancient cataclysm. Anyways, I could go into Atlantis, the Sphinx, and the Cataclysm all day. I can go into Egypt all year, really. Same with Peru. I'm trying desperately not to go too off track here, so I will leave it at this. What we've been told is a total lie. We are slowly seeing more and more evidence come out proving these past lies. It benefits the establishment to keep us in the dark. Was there an ancient society that possessed incredible technology? Yes, in my opinion. We already know this, though. Humans today could not build what the ancients built. The pyramids, Machu Picchu. In fact, throughout the dynasties of Egypt, as time went on, architecture got more and more primitive. Human understanding of architecture continuously devolved. How does humanity start off huge and then devolve? The answer is most likely that we had the ability to do amazing things, pass those amazing innovations down through generations following the massive cataclysm that wiped out the greatest civilization on Earth, and the knowledge slowly dwindled down over time as records were lost and ancestors grew further and further away to the winds of time. Now finally, we're seeing some of the mainstream scientific community come out of the closet, so to say. Many are calling this crater a smoking gun. It's a step in the right direction. Let us put an end to government suppression of ancient technologies. To know our past is to know our future. What does the government know that we don't? Why do they flash the Eye of Horus on the worthless fiat world reserve currency? Why do they build great obelisks? I've got evidence and points sky high, and it drives me crazy not just delving into everything I've got. But for now, I will wrap it up before I turn into the crazy guy with newspapers on the wall and strings connecting articles. All the same, I will be doing more extensive, in-depth reports on this subject matter in the near future. Until then, question everything. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. This is Josh Sigurdson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change. Like what you see here, OM? Don't forget to check the links below. GoFundMe, Patreon. We can't do it without you. Any donation is very much appreciated, especially as we are so vastly demonetized and censored on YouTube, as these guys come in and flag all of our content as hate speech. Also, check out our Bitcoin address below as well as on the screen for you to scan if you please. And also check us out at steemit.com. We're at Josh Sigurdson. It's a future of social media where you get paid in the upvote of your post in cryptocurrency, Steem that is. So make sure to check us out there. Make sure to join us at Anarchapulco 2019 with people like Ron Paul, G. Edward Griffin, of course, Jeff Berwick, Vid Jedlicka. So many incredible speakers are going to be speaking. It's just a massively growing event. It is something you have to see to believe. So make sure to check it out below and save money on your tickets tickets by using promo code WAM, that's WAM, and I hope to see you there. Also, check out our newsletter as we are getting demonetized and censored and all that. We don't know what comes next, so we have an email, worldalternativemedia@gmail.com. Send us an email with subject line YES, YES, and we will include you in the newsletter where we will continuously keep you updated. So until next time, thanks for watching, everyone. This is Josh Sigurdson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change.
I'm sure you have already changed people's minds in your young age because you're involved, and I like that.